please drop your questions in the chat and we'll have some time at the end to address all the questions. And ladies, whenever you need me to advance the slides, just go ahead and tell me next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'll take it away since I am Marquita. So it's nice to meet you all, nice to see you all, and I'm so excited to be here today just to talk about military social work with you guys. So I came into social work. I know you heard my bio a little bit about me. I've been in the military for quite some time, and I feel like my journey to social work was one, and I don't want to sound cliche, but I am going to sound cliche. I didn't choose social work chose me. Because everything that I have gone through, that I have experienced professionally, personally, kind of pushed me towards social work. So I was excited to become a military social worker when I found out about the opportunities that the military had. I took advantage of them. So in 2017, that's when I received my general license for social work. And then in 2019, I received my clinical license. So I'm going to pretty much focus on what happened after I received my clinical license just for the sake of time. So I was assessed through the Officer Candidate School, and that's just a commission and source that the military has for junior enlisted or enlisted people who would like to become officers. And in order to be a social worker in the military, you have to be an officer. So I was commissioned through OCS. So next slide. Okay. So after receiving my clinical license, I was stationed in South Korea and I was there for 2 years. During that time, I was a behavioral health officer. Um, I was I worked with a unit that had about 3,000 soldiers assigned to that unit, and I wasn't responsible for the total 3,000 myself. I did have a colleague who worked with me, and it was two of us. And I know 3,000 may seem like a lot, but it really isn't because you have to look at the utilization rates. So we probably maintain a caseload of about 50 or so, and it fluctuated throughout the years. So a typical day for me, we have to do physical training in the morning, of course, and then that's 5 days a week. Then we have to report to the clinic at 07:30. And then our day typically ends at 4:30. However, if you have to complete notes, do admin tasks and things like that, sometimes, it extends beyond that 4:30 time period. So when I was in Korea, some of the things that I saw there as a clinical social worker were soldiers who were in their first enlistment. So the population that I served was mostly between the ages, about 60% were between the ages of 17 and 25. So some of the things that I saw there as far as diagnoses and symptoms and things like that, it was mostly adjustment. So I'm sure you guys covered, different diagnoses and stuff like that already. So I saw mostly adjustment, some depression, a little bit of anxiety, but it was very mild, nothing severe. However, I did have maybe about in 2 year time frame, about three soldiers who they had a psychotic break during that time while they were there overseas because it is a lot of stress, anxiety, first time away from home, different country, and things like that. So they had their psychotic break. And if you look at the age range that I just provided, 17 to 25, it's kind of common at that point, that's when those things can happen. So that's why that wasn't caught before, they were actually able to enlist because it just didn't show up before that time. So some of the highlights of being overseas in Korea is the travel opportunities. During my time there, I was able to travel to Japan. I went to Germany. I was able to go to Belgium. And if you're overseas at any installation, you're able to travel. So that's one of the benefits of being overseas is being in close proximity to other countries that you can visit, and the time that it takes you to get there is a little bit shorter. So it's less money and it's more affordable. So that's some of the advantages of being overseas, and also the cultural aspect of it, getting to know about different cultures, learning different languages, meeting different people, and just taking advantage of that. It was a great experience for me. Every time I have the opportunity to go overseas, I'll take it. But yeah, so that's just my experience from being overseas, and my time in Korea. So after my 2 years in Korea, I then moved to North Carolina, where I was for 3 years. And in North Carolina, I was dual hatted in that position. I served as a behavioral health officer for the organization, and I was also a senior wellness program counselor. So, with the behavioral health officer, it was very similar to my position when I was in Korea, doing individual treatment, group treatment, and my other hat as the senior wellness program counselor, I had to oversee 8 different civilians who were geographically dispersed over throughout the East Coast. Far north is New York, far south is Puerto Rico. So I covered the entire area and I had to supervise them, and they provided brief interventions, non diagnostic treatment, and I was there to just oversee them. And then, if they had someone whose symptoms were more severe than what they were supposed to handle, then I would take them or make sure that I get them out to community resources that are closer to their area. And while I was in North Carolina, I worked with a law enforcement population, which is a specialized population because they are high risk, because they carry weapons all day, every day. They have multiple personal weapons, military weapons, and they're also exposed to a lot of trauma. So I had to really, get more training, additional training when it came to trauma treatment, because I had to get to know my population and what they needed. So it's really important as you're moving around from installation to installation or unit to unit, to know your population and become culturally competent, right? And so you can provide adequate care for those people in that area. Um, so with law enforcement, again, like the trauma that they're exposed to, the human suffering that they're exposed to, I had to get spun up on trauma treatment. So there, I saw a lot of complex trauma, and some of it was military related, and some of it was not. Some of it was just by virtue of their jobs and the things that they were seeing. And I'm talking about death, suicides, car accidents where bodies are dismembered. It's just a gambit of things. So being able to treat those that population, it was very interesting too, just being exposed to all of that. But with that population, the age ranged from like 20 to probably about 40-ish. And the treatment modality that I used most of the time was EMDR or CPT to help. And most of them loved EMDR because they didn't really have to talk a lot about what they were experiencing or what they were going through. So it was a lot easier sell because they have this thing against the stigma that comes with behavioral health, right? And they think with law enforcement, it's like, if I tell you this stuff, you're going to try to take my weapon, you're going to take my credentials, you're gonna, put me on the sideline. And that wasn't what we did, but that's what they thought. So EMDR was something that I utilized a lot. And then the other thing was cognitive processing therapy. And then sleep. They always have issues with sleeping. That's another thing with law enforcement. And then self-medicating, just making sure that they're not self-medicating, because some people will go home, they'll see a bad accident or something, they'll drink or what have you. And mostly it's alcohol, because alcohol is legal, and they don't have to worry about urinalysis when it comes to that. So yeah, it was a very good experience. Again, I think I have good experiences everywhere because I'm supposed to be here. Like I said, social work chose me, but it was a great experience just learning to work in that trauma field. And also, oh, critical incident debriefings. That's something that I did many of. So it's also psychological debriefings or traumatic event management. I'm not sure you heard of any of those, but they're all pretty much the same thing. So I would travel conducting these psychological debriefings when people were exposed to different crime scenes like death, or going to an autopsy and it's their first autopsy, just different things like that. So yeah, working with law enforcement is awesome, but you definitely have to be prepared for the things that you're going to be exposed to and the things that you're going to see, because you are and being ensuring that you are taking care of yourself through the process. So this where I really had to hone in on my self-care, because I was exposed to the same trauma that they were exposed to. So you have to be mindful that you're not receiving that secondary trauma through the work that you're doing. So self-care is extremely important. So that's my time at in North Carolina working with law enforcement. And I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay, so all of that led me here where I am right now currently, and I am in Kansas, and I work at a military correctional complex. So I went from working with the law enforcement officers to now working with the inmates. So my population is all prior service, but it's still a military treatment facility. So still Army, still physical training, 3 to 5 days a week. Work call is still 7:30. Just the difference. And the end of the day is supposed to be 4, but again, sometimes it extends beyond that because I have to do notes or I have to do admin stuff or I'm doing research. So it takes some time. And when I look at the highlights of this experience here, it's been awesome. Working with inmates is a little bit different because we focus on crime specific treatment. And crime specific treatment is not something that I was taught as I was going through my social work program, or even after the fact. That was something that I had to get additional training for. So, a lot of our population is sex offenders. So, yes, I have to sit and listen to sex offenders talk about their experiences, their stories, and their childhood, but a lot of times is traumatic as well. They have a lot of adverse childhood experiences. Um, Listening to that, listening to their crimes in detail, because that's part of the crime specific treatment that we provide. So that is for crime specific. We have assaultive offenders, so people who have killed their family members or killed other soldiers, whatever it is. We have to provide treatment to them. And I conduct individual services, group services, also conduct rehabilitative workshops. And the workshops includes like victim impact, just teaching the offenders about the impact that their crime may have had on their victim or society as a whole. We also conduct workshops on anger management, stress management, sleep, parenting from the inside, and our pre-release program as well. So we have a bunch of workshops that the guys are able to participate in addition to the individual treatment that they receive. So yes, so that's where I am right now, and that's pretty much all I have about my experience as a military social worker. And I'll pass it back to Sabrina, and I'll get your questions later.
Thank you so much for
Thank
that. So
you.
go ahead, Janae.
I was just saying thank you, that's all.
Awesome. And so we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Karishma Pooran.
Mm. Good evening. Thank you so much for making some time to connect with us today. I'm Karishma. As you heard in my bio, I've been in the military for about 20 years now. The first 10 were in human resource, and about in 2014, I found the Army social work program. So through my journey in the Army and getting my undergrad, I realized I wanted to counsel in some form. I enjoyed connecting with soldiers, and I saw myself continuing on that path beyond like a leadership role and mentor. So a friend of mine told me about an Army social work program, and I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of my presentation. But I applied, and I was fortunately selected. So in 2015, I commissioned as a second lieutenant, and the Army pretty much put me through my master's program, the internship, where I was able to obtain my LCSW in 2019. Next slide, please. So I'll focus more on the second part of my career where it was social work, and I'll narrow that down to my deployment experience. But as a behavioral health officer, really we're focusing the big overview of a behavioral health officer when you're assigned to an organization, and that organization can have anywhere from 1,500 soldiers to 3,000, as you heard Marquita say, or sometimes even more. Um, the big thing to when we're focusing on is we are monitoring trends in that organization, and we're tailoring our treatment approaches to make sure and we're treating those trends, whether it's on the prevention side or the clinical care side. We balance that with some psychoeducation and groups in between. So when I say the prevention side, what that typically looks like is a lot of outreach. So we would connect with soldiers in their settings, like their work environments. We're walking around, we're building rapport so that we're breaking some of those stigmatized, thoughts of maybe seeking behavioral health. So a lot of our efforts are not only balanced in the clinical setting, but also on the outreach side where we're connecting with our leadership and the soldiers to find out, hey, getting a good pulse of what's going on in the organization. How can we tailor our efforts, whether it's, doing some group therapy, whether it's meeting with units, in a group setting where we can talk about self-care and we can hit on mindfulness and being creative in that setting. So with that, I had the opportunity to deploy with one of my organizations in 2020. It was during COVID. We went to Kuwait and we did about a 9-month rotation there. So it was myself. I had a team with a psychologist and 2 behavioral health technicians. And we deployed with about 1,500 soldiers that were spread out in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. So if you could go to the next slide. What I would really like to hit on with my deployment experience is being flexible in that environment. When we're back in the stateside, things can look a little traditional. We have a clinic that we can go to. We have set rooms where we can do group therapy and things like that. When we're forward in an environment where maybe those things aren't as established, we really had to work together as a team to figure out, okay, how can we continue to meet the needs of our organization? So the picture on the left, the first picture is there of me briefing a group of soldiers getting ready to go out on their 12-hour security mission in that area. So it was midnight, it was dark. So another thing about, meeting the soldiers where they're at is making sure that we as clinicians are flexible. This was me introducing ourselves so that they get familiar with who we are, because maybe we were in that area for maybe 4 or 5 days. So they didn't have a lot of time with us. We couldn't set up maybe a treatment plan that facilitated them seeing us, every week or twice a week. But that was an initial engagement to introduce what we could do for them while we were on ground. We gave them a little bit of tools before they went out on mission. And what we were able to do as a team after that was within the 4 days, break up our time to see each section when they were in their security position or post that they were at doing their 12-hour shift. So again, a little unorthodox of what you would typically see or think of in a social work setting, but it works in the military environment because there's a lot of autonomy and a lot of flexibility for you to get creative. And that's one of the things I loved about being in the deployed environment, is being able to bring the creativity side of social work to make sure we meet the needs of our population. The other 2 pictures there are some of those outreach events that I was telling you about. So we were able to set up mental health awareness, suicide awareness, information and booths where we can spread information and connect with soldiers. And again, breaking that stigma down of them seeing our faces out and about in the dining facilities and near the shopping facilities, on the base, places that we knew soldiers would be in mass, and we can really connect with them on a big level. If you could go to the next slide, please. Some more opportunities that we had, the last picture there to the right is us doing a mindfulness workshop. So in the deployed environment, as we talked about, 3,000 soldiers or 15,000 soldiers sounds like a lot, right? How we were able to adjust to meet the demands were doing a lot of group settings, a lot of psychoeducation on stress management, sleep hygiene, mindfulness, a lot of workshops that we were able to offer throughout the installation where soldiers could sign up and they can come. We had multiple iterations of that. That way it could fit within their schedule, because not every soldier is going to have the same exact 9 to 5 as I described. They're going to have 24-hour operations where everyone's day looks a little different. So like I said, again, being adaptable to making sure that we're being aware of what challenges they're facing and figuring out how we can meet those needs. Some other creative ways is that middle picture. Soldiers always meet every morning for physical training. So it was a great opportunity for us as behavioral health professionals to get out, meet with the unit while they're doing physical training, and usually they give us a little segue towards the end or the beginning where we can give them some good nuggets on mental health and things they can do to stay motivated and really help them through any situational stressors that they're dealing with. And then, of course, again, like I said, that rapport building and getting our faces and names out there so they feel comfortable and breaking that barrier down to come in and seek help when they need to. And probably outside of being creative and being able to bring that to the deployed environment, my second most favorite thing, and I guess this is not unique to the deployed environment, but all the units I've been is the camaraderie. That first picture there is company size formation. So there's about 50 of us that were all medical professionals, and we supported, all those 1,500 dispersed service members, anywhere from not only behavioral health, but physical therapy, occupational therapy, lab, dental. So we were all a very tight-knit medical company that we were sharing trends and what we're seeing in the formation because it really helped us collaborate. Our relationships leaving our installations are huge and experience that I would say is pretty unique to the military, and those bonds you build are really unforgettable. So, as I could talk, I've known Marquita and Sabrina. We met in the Army Social Work program 10 years ago, and we probably talk on a weekly basis. And sometimes that's just us talking about personal life, and sometimes it's us talking about our military experiences and bouncing ideas and getting feedback. So it's truly a special dynamic when you join the military, and that camaraderie and bond that you form has been one of my favorite parts of serving. Next slide, please. So I'll transition briefly. Outside of my time as a behavioral health officer and admin, I had the opportunity to serve in a medical recruiting company. So I'll talk a little bit about the different pathways if you're interested in becoming a social worker. There are 3 different routes you can take primarily. There's the Army Social Work Program, which I kind of hit on a little bit. The Army will, if you're accepted, the Army will put you through a master's degree for 14 months while you're getting paid as an active duty officer. And after that, they will connect you with a military installation where you go through 2 years of internship. So you're practicing under someone else's license, you're getting that clinical exposure, sharpening your tool bag, getting you prepped for that LCSW. So that is the Army MSW program, which kind of feeds into the second bullet there, the Army Social Work Internship Program. Now, if you've already attained your MSW and you're working towards gaining your clinical licensure, you can apply just to what we call it, the SWIP. And you can go to an Army installation, get those same experiences. We have diverse populations we work with, from child and family to the family advocacy to the substance use department. We have intensive outpatient treatments, and of course, like outpatient level 1 care before the intensive outpatient treatment. So there are a mixture of things you're going to be exposed to in that internship program that really sets you up for success to be an independent clinician moving forward. And then the third option, if you've already obtained your LCSW and you're interested and want to become a social worker in the Army, you can also apply through that route. The key thing I want to hit on is these boards are usually held once a year. There's a committee that determines who is able to, enter under each one of these programs. I would highly encourage that you connect with a medical recruiter as early as possible, even if you're considering, because there are certain timelines you have to hit for that once a year board. As you can see in the beginning there, the Masters of Social Work program, the board typically meets in November. You don't want to wait till October or even September to apply, because you already missed the deadline for certain things before that, and you'll have to wait another year. So if you have questions after this or want to connect with me personally on how do you go about entering service and any more questions about these programs, I'll make myself available. And I will transition over to Sabrina Lewis.
Okay, so I am bringing up the rear. So, as just about everybody has said, Karishma, as well as the wonderful e-board, my name is Sabrina Lewis. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am what they call a direct commission. So, unlike Karishma and Marquita, who have years of military experience, I literally walked in the street into an AMED officer or AMED recruiting office and say, I want to join the military in the Army MSW program. It doesn't matter what background. I do have a bachelor's in behavior analysis, and at the time I had a master's in psychology. But as long as I had a bachelor's, I was eligible for the program. So I did get selected. And I did, just like we all did, we did the Army MSW program as well as SWIP. Okay. And so I did commission, and that was basically my experience. So my briefing style may be a little bit different, and that's just because I'm not too military like everybody else. As far as my military roles and experiences, so right after I finished SWIP, I did go overseas into Germany. I was there for 2 years. For me, that was a horrible experience, but that was just because I was there during COVID. I think anywhere that you go during COVID in the military was quite challenging. A typical day for myself, there was an expectation for us to PT 5 days a week. I definitely figured out a way to weasel out of that. And so I did PT about 3 times a week. Because I skipped out of PT, I will go to work early just to say I'm seeing patients and doing patient care. So usually the work call was at 9, but I was there bright and early at 7. And every day was honestly different. My experiences in Germany, because that unit was getting stood up. So I think we had maybe 1,500 soldiers when I arrived, and they were going to scale up to about 2,000 or 2,500 soldiers. So there was a lot of administrative. I wasn't doing too many clinical caseload or anything like that. It was establishing programs. What did it look like when we needed to evac somebody, send them back to the States? What did long-term care look like when they needed a higher level of care that we just could not do in Germany? Just as Marquita had mentioned, I have the same patient population or the same age range, about 18 to maybe 22, 23. Everybody, when they join the military, they want to go overseas. They want to go to Germany. They want to go somewhere. And Germany is exciting. Europe is exciting. And so unfortunately, when they got to me, there was a lot of adjustment challenges. There was substance use challenges. And so fortunately for me, I did have a background, or we all have a background in substance use studies. So I was able to tap into that. But I got a lot more experience during my time in Germany, because a lot of times, especially during COVID, soldiers didn't have nothing to do but drink. And so of course there were a lot of travel opportunities. I didn't get to maximize on majority of those because again, we were kind of shut down. I also looked at a highlight of having a small caseload because I was really able to get into a lot more administrative. And I said, building a program and what I want that to look like. And some of the policies that I established in that program, 5 years ago is still there today. And so it's really nice to see how if you're intentional about what you're doing and if it works, it's not going to change itself. Or I don't want to say it's not going to change itself, but there's no need to recreate the wheel if something is already there. Moving into my time in Kuwait. So that was a PCS for me. It's called a hardship tour. So what that basically means is I was there by myself, but I really don't have any children, or I did have a husband at the time, so he was somewhere else, and I was stationed in Kuwait. So my experience with that was quite different. There was a very relaxed environment when I was in Kuwait, and that was just because I was kind of it. There was about maybe 900 soldiers total, and we were dispersed all over the Middle East. So Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the expectation was that basically myself, their BHO had to transit through all those locations. So if I just came off of a travel, I wasn't going to work the next day at 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. or anything. But the downfall behind that is when the US is up and they're doing all of their calls and their meetings, we have to stay up that late to be on that time zone. So that was the main challenging aspect, and being the only behavioral health personnel there responsible for majority of the soldiers. And again, how to medevac soldiers. When somebody's having a psychotic break, because I had a couple of those, what are we supposed to do with them? And so it's really important that you have a really, really good, solid foundation. And I was able to lean on, I'm pretty sure I called Marquita and Karishma a lot during my time in Kuwait, because it was very challenging for me, but I do look back on it with a lot of fond memories because I think I grew the most in Kuwait. And a highlight for me in Kuwait was shopping. I don't know if anybody's been to the Middle East, but I love shopping. I got my little Katouche from Kuwait. The shopping experiences was wonderful. The spas, oh, I can't get over that. So that was really nice when we were able to get off the installation. The experiences that I got with that was just so nice because it's so difficult sometimes being military in somebody uniform, eating at the defects. When we got off post, that was really nice, and I really capitalized off of that. I did have 2 years when I was in Colorado, and that was when my first experience as a behavioral health officer stateside. So in that, I didn't really have a lot of flexibility. I had to be at somebody clinic every day at 7:30, so that was new to me. It was a little bit more structured. My day typically ended around 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and sometimes I was just sitting in my office waiting to go to the gym because I was waiting down traffic. So I had a lot, since it was structured, I had a lot more predictability, which I did appreciate. Because I was in a combat arms unit essentially. There were a lot of midnight phone calls about soldiers and what was going on and how I needed to handle that. And because of that, because I was kind of on call a lot, I was offered it wasn't an opportunity, but we were expected to PT on our own. So who ran will get up and PT with her soldiers. I will not. So I prefer to PT in the afternoon. I'm a 5:30, 6 o'clock PT girly. So I really choose to do all of my physical training in the afternoon. So that's what I did when I was in Colorado. The highlight, I did appreciate the continuity, the predictability. I did appreciate being able to finally go to training and conferences. There's a lot of opportunities the military gives you, and they want you to go and get your CEUs, and they will pay to send you for those. So that was really something that I was able to do because all of my other assignments, it was virtual or whatever have you. And I had a caseload of probably about 30 individuals. So I really was able to sharpen my clinical skills during that time. So now my current assignment, applied for a child and family social work fellowship program, and I was fortunate enough to have been selected. So one of the things in the military is we work with soldiers. Thank you. One of the things in the military, we work with adults a lot of the time. So this was the slim opportunity, or really the only opportunity where you get to learn to work with kids. And so with that, my typical day is at 7:30. I see patients. I see five to six patients a day. And that's a little bit difficult for me because I kind of went from having my own flexibility to now it's really structured. I am also a PhD candidate at Catholic University. So my day does end at around 3. And I usually transition my way over to Catholic University. I do go in person. So I'm able to go after work to go to school and attend school and hopefully pursue my PhD. So the highlight, my PhD program. This fellowship has been very challenging, but I think it's just because I applied because I know it can be challenging working with children, and I wanted to expose myself to that and really just feel that because I've avoided it for so long. And they say you don't grow as a clinician unless if you actually put yourself in situations to grow that's uncomfortable. So I'm experiencing all of the discomfort. And I think the other highlight is, of course, the consistency. Like there's a lot of predictability. And I have a stable, solid schedule. And sometimes that's really hard to come by. And I'm home just about every night, unless if I'm in school. I'm with my husband. I'm able to see him. We're able to travel together. So I'm able to really build and pour into that family in my personal life because sometimes you don't always have the opportunity to maximize on self-care. I think. Oh, just kidding. So when we get into other opportunities for social workers, the main thing is there are different programs that are available. As I mentioned, I'm doing the Child and Family Fellowship, but there's a PhD in social work. So if you're in with your MSW and you're in for a few years and you say you want to go and get your PhD, it has to be in social work. The military will pay for it. There's a program that you could apply for. Also, if you're interested in healthcare administration, there's another program that the military will pay for, and you apply to that, and you can go to Baylor University and get another master's. As far as other incentives, so in addition to our military pay, they do incentivize us as social workers to stay in because they need us. So we are all board certified, so we get our board certification pay. And there's also retention pay to keep us in the military because they want us to stay. And that pay actually just increased significantly for us. So very excited about that. And overall, there's just a wide range of roles that we have. There's clinical care policy development, overseas stateside. So it really just depends on what you want to do. But I will say you have to be in the right place at the right time. You can't elect for things. The cards just have to fall hopefully in your favor. But I do think a lot of the things that we have been exposed to, we worked hard for it and we've kind of went after it. So I think with a lot of persistence and networking, there can definitely be these opportunities available for whoever wants to pursue them. Now I'm going to X out of here. Well, no, I'm not. I am going to open up for questions, but I did just want to show our contact information in case if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to us for any additional information. These are our pictures. And as you can see, I did not put my uniform on. And our personal emails are also available. So please feel free to shoot us an email, but we are here for questions.
Thank you, ladies. Again, we really appreciate y'all. Officer Lewis, Officer Barr, and Officer Pooran. I know I've been saying Miss, and I thought about it midway. I said, oh, these are officers. Hold on, let me make sure I use the correct terminology for these women. Thank y'all so much. We did have a couple questions. Hold on. Somebody had put a question in the chat earlier. It looks like it's gone. Let me see. So first thing I had a question. I wanted to know, Officer Pooran, you were saying that you don't need to be licensed to get into the different programs. As somebody that is, I'm a supervisee and social work in Virginia, that's like pre LCSW, so I'm getting my hours now, but I'll be done like around next July. And I know the program is said typically the meeting is in May. Would it make sense for me to try to join before I get my license, or should I just wait till I'm a fully licensed LCSW to join, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it would depend on one, what you would want to do first, and then two, we would have to look at how many hours you have obtained so far. I think they recently changed it where they look at that. If you're beyond a certain point, it may not be may not be eligible to apply for the internship because you've already obtained so many licensure hours, and it is a 2-year program. So if you were going to end that early, there's certain things that the Army has to consider there. And if you were to wait until you attained all your licensure, there would be no issue, all your hours and your actual license, there would be no issues in trying to apply as a direct. But it's really, I would say, go back to what your career timeline is and what your goals are, and how you've set up your milestones to really determine, hey, would it be beneficial for you to join now and obtain the rest of your hours in the Army internship program. That's the first thing. If you want to talk to me offline about some of your goals, we can do that. And we can, I can help you kind of navigate what that looks like. And then, like I said, number 2 is looking at how many hours you've already completed to decide if you're eligible or not.
Okay. Thank you so much. I definitely will connect.
And call me Kareshma. I don't go by
Okay.
Major Career Officer.
Okay.
Call me Kareshma, please.
Okay, cool. I was thinking about it midway. I said, "Oh, I feel so bad. I've been saying this and this."
Oh,
okay.
No.
And then someone asked, and I'm not sure if you ladies may know the answer to this, but is the Army the only branch allotted these opportunities? If other branches have like LCSW or social work programs?
Yes, the Navy, they have social workers, and I believe the Air Force, what routes they can take, it really depends on that specific branch. Like I know of in the past, for that MSW program specifically, they've allowed Air Force personnel to apply and Navy personnel, but then I've known some years where that they haven't allowed specific branches. So it really depends on that coordination and what they're accepting. But as far as actual behavioral health professionals in the other branches, there are. I'm not as familiar with how to go through actually assessing uh, as a behavioral health officer for them.
Just to piggyback off of what you said, Karishma, I'm looking into joining the Navy now that I've learned so much. But originally, I was informed that only the Army, because now that I know so much. But originally, I was looking into the Navy because I had learned about them first. So they do have like LCSW. Theirs is called an LCSW fellowship program where you would join the Navy and get your LCSW through them, or if you're already an LCSW, you can join. But I think I'm gonna be. Y'all have sold me on the Army. Plus, I heard it's a better brand. So
Yeah, you know we have a slogan in the Army. It's like "Go Army, beat Navy." You know,
yes,
they didn't try that. My so every year there's an Army Navy football game in December, and we usually spank up on the Navy every year. So,
good.
um,
Imagine.
either route though, we collaborate with the other branches as well. So whatever really fits your personality and goals, you know, go after it. We all are a helping profession, and we work together and collaborate a lot with the joint services.
Thank you. And then someone else asked, is there any an age or deadline cutoff?
Yes. I don't know. I think I want to say it's 39 for the social Army social work program. Is that correct, Pooran?
Somewhere around that age. It sometimes it fluctuates, but typically there might be some exceptions for the medical. I'd have to circle back on that one for
Yeah,
the age.
they typically have waivers for that too. If you need a waiver, sometimes you can get a waiver for the age.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I would definitely reach out, of course, to an AMAD recruiter because they'll probably have that additional information. And if there's a concern, especially like with age, if it's about like the PT test or if it's about traveling, like deployments and everything, I think the recruiter would I don't know, but my recruiter at least had information about installations or what that expectation is within the first 5 to 7 years of service. I do think my recruiter wasn't 100% honest with me. So you can absolutely reach out, but normally they will kind of give you some guidance of how to manage your expectations. And I do think that how they manage some of those directed sessions do change from year to year. So that's another thing to be aware of. When our directed sessions right now, when they're coming in, they're going straight to BHO assignments, which I think is great. But sometimes they end up as a clinic chief or something else. So I think it really just depends on when they assess.
Thank you, ladies. Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am Aisha. I have a question for you, Marquita. Sorry, I hope I said it right. We're working in an intense program with clients with a background like sexual assault, like you said, you work now. How do you put your own personal feelings to the side with trying to best, I guess, advocate and also accommodate the client that you're helping? Oh, I think you
Sorry.
mute.
Yeah. So for me, what I had to do was look at them from a perspective as in they're gonna get out, they're gonna be somebody's neighbor, they're gonna be, your neighbor, your family's neighbor, whomever, but they're gonna get out of prison. So that helps me with checking my own biases. And then I also do consultation. I'll talk to my supervisor like, hey, I feel this way about this person because we all have our personal, issues and sometimes you will hear something that's triggering in a sense and you're like, I don't want to talk to this person. Or, when they've done things to small children or, it's difficult. I'm not going to act like it's easy, but yeah, I just learned to separate the person from the crime. It's like hate the sin, not the sinner, and that's what I had to tell myself. And like, this person deserves treatment. This person deserves care. And if they don't receive this, there's a possibility that they'll go back out and reoffend. And it could be my sister, or it could be my son, or it could be, someone from my family. So that keeps me honest. And if I ever feel too much in my chest, because I pay attention to my body, I do a lot of scanning, and I feel uncomfortable, or I feel like I'm not giving someone the treatment that they need, or adequate treatment, I'll talk to my supervisor and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I feel. And either she'll send me back in there, be like, nope, you're fine, you're great, going back in there. or I just feel better just talking about it with her and being honest, like, I don't like this, but I'm gonna do it. So yeah, it's just a personal thing and a personal responsibility, and you just have to make sure that you're able to separate the sin from the sinner. That's how I make it make sense in
Right.
my mind. But it is difficult, and I have some techs that I work with, behavioral health techs, who struggle with that a lot. They're younger than I am, don't have a lot of life experiences, so very judgmental, right? Rightfully so, because they have their experiences and they're seeing these people, so they don't want to treat them sometimes. But then we have different days where I actually go through cases with them and try to get them more comfortable with talking to the guys about anything that they're experiencing and not really taking it personal, because they're there. Their punishment is being in jail. It's not for me to punish them or not give them proper treatment because they're there. But it's not easy, but you can do it. You just have to be able to separate the person from the crime.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna be using that saying, hate the
Yeah, me too.
sinner.
And then Jaleesa said, "Are the panelists still enlisted? I'm a veteran. I've wanted to work alongside service members since leaving the service. I originally wanted to obtain my LCSW, but never considered military social work until now. I've seen that Miss Barr works in prison, and Miss Lewis in MD. Do y'all have any insight on military social work in the civilian sector? It's a good question.
I'll go first. I'm still active. Well, we're all still active duty social workers. As far as obtaining any type of social work position within the GS sector or the civilian sector, I don't have much information about the civilian sector aside from applying through. I don't even know the website. I think it's USA
The
Job.
USA government, is it government job, USA
Just
jobs?
usajobs.gov.
It is.
Okay. So unfortunately, I don't have any information. I don't know if Marquita or Karishma do.
That would be the main route, usajobs.gov, to see what's out there in the different regions and applying that way. There are your LCSW. I've seen some MFLAX, military family life consultants, do that work. That's not a GS employee, they're contractors. But typically, the MFLACs, the military family life consultants, are maybe LMSWs or other counselors. But I've seen LCSWs also work in that role, and you can look for those jobs by Googling the military family life consultant,
It's
and
still
probably
Magellan who ran
Magellan.
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 Yeah, that's who has the contract right now, I believe.
Yeah, they rotate contracts for the MFLAX in the military. But those are the two routes that stand out in my head right now.
And somebody put it in the chat, so thank you for that. I know someone did ask if we wanted to hear from other branches to narrow down our decision. So these women we reached out to, they are in the Army. So we would, as an organization, I would try to see if we could get some other branches involved, but I know they would only specialize in Army and speaking about their experience in the Army. So we'll try to see if we could pull some things to help y'all with seeing about other branches. And thank you for whoever put that in the chat. Any last questions before we go? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, we are HBCU Social Work Connect. We do have another event coming up on the 23rd with forensic social work at 7 p.m. Again, thank you, Marquita, Sabrina, and Karishma. We really, really do appreciate you all. With one last question, what someone say? Can you guys? Yes. So we put it in the group chat. If you are in our group me, which one of our exec board members put up in the top of the chat, that the recording of this will be posted in that chat if you guys are interested of watching it. And this meeting started at 7. I'm sorry if you were informed incorrectly. I apologize about that. I really do.
Janae, I have one more question for.
Okay, go ahead, Aisha.
Miss Lewis, does your fellowship cover your school? I'm not sure if you said that, but does it cover the fee of schooling?
What school are you talking about? The PhD program that I'm in?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Oh, no, 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 no. I use my GI Bill for the PhD. So that's kind of something that's like on the side. So my fellowship and my PhD program are two separate things. You
Mhm.
could get your PhD covered if you apply through the LFET. It's the Long-Term Health Education and Training. It's a program, and so you can either get selected for the Child and Family Fellowship if you apply for that, or you can get accepted for the PhD School of Choice if you apply for that. And if you do apply for the PhD School of Choice and you get accepted, you can go to whatever school you like within reason. And you will get your PhD paid for it like that. I think a lot of families or parents who have given their GI Bill typically to their children or use it for whatever reason, the school of choice is a little bit more appealing because this is basically another way to get another degree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ladies, again. And again, their contact information is on screen if anybody's interested in any more information regarding the Army social work. And thank you all again, ladies. We really do appreciate y'all tonight. If all hearts and minds are clear, y'all have a great night.
Thank you, ladies. Y'all
Thank
have a good
you.
one.